Episode 360, Gemma 4. Should you own your AI?
The primitive forms of artificial intelligence we already have proved very useful.
AI is a golden opportunity.
How do we ensure that this technology is regulated?
The long arc of technological history is now in an extraordinary new phase.
The AI6 podcast with Joanne Sweeney.
Earlier this month, Google released a new family of open-weight AI models called Gemma 4. They are free to download, licensed for broad commercial use, and powerful enough to stand alongside many of the paid AI tools organizations are using right now. Hello and welcome to AI6. I'm Joanne Sweeney on a mission to upskill 500,000 people in AI, one 6-minute episode at a time. So this is big news in the world of artificial intelligence. So what's the big news around Gemma 4 from Google? Well, you can run these models on your own hardware under your own control with no required subscription and the option to keep all data inside your building, which, as we will appreciate, is very attractive to organizations, both private and public. And it's come from Google's DeepMind lab. Think of them as the engine inside tools like ChatGPT, Copilot or Claude. But this time Google has released the weights openly under the Apache 2.0 open source license. That license means you can use Gemma 4 in commercial products, inside your organization and for client work, with no per seat or per query fees, as long as you keep the standard attribution and license terms and follow Google's prohibited use policy. Since the first Gemma models launched, the community has downloaded them over 400 million times and created more than 100,000 variants, according to Google. Gemma 4 is the latest and most capable generation in the ecosystem, and it's definitely not a side project. And the Gemma 4 family currently comes in 4 sizes, designed to cover everything from phones and edge devices up to powerful data center GPUs. The smallest models can run fully offline on a modern laptop or high-end smartphone, while the largest 20 to 30 billion parameter model targets advanced coding, reasoning, and analysis tasks that compete with other state-of-the-art open models. You still need enough RAM or VRAM, for example, and the guides suggest around 8 to 12 gigabyte systems memory for the smallest variants and 20 gigabyte or more GPU memory for the largest, but no internet connection is required once the model is downloaded. And so why is it big news? Well, there are 3 reasons. First, cost. If your team uses tools like ChatGPT or Copilot or Claude, you probably pay per user per month, and then sometimes per query. With an open-weight model like Gemma 4, there are no ongoing license or API fees for the model itself. You download it, you run it locally, and you pay only for your own hardware and engineering time. For organizations with smaller budgets, especially in the public sector, that can change the maths very quickly. Second, privacy. On many consumer AI plans, your prompts may be used to improve models unless you opt out or use enterprise settings. And a lot of organizations are still unclear on those defaults. When you run a model like Gemma 4 entirely on your own infrastructure, behind your firewall, on your servers, your data does not need to leave your network, and you can decide what logs to keep, how long to store them, and who can access them. For anyone handling sensitive information, client data, internal strategy, or citizen records, this is a significant shift in risk. And then third, it's about control. Around the world, governments are talking about sovereign AI, and I've spoken about it extensively on this podcast. So making sure critical AI systems run on infrastructure and under laws they control in their own jurisdictions. France, for example, has announced plans and contracts for public sector and defence AI that prioritise national or European infrastructure, moving to Mistral, for example. Open weight models like Gemma 4 make a similar level of control available to regular organizations. You choose where the models run, which data it sees, and which security and compliance rules apply. Once you've downloaded the model weights under Apache 2.0, a vendor cannot suddenly raise your license fees or revoke your right to keep using that copy, even if they change future releases or hosted services. And that's very different from relying entirely on a single cloud AI provider whose terms or product lineup can change overnight. So what can we do with Gemma 4? Well, a communications team could run Gemma 4 on an internal server to draft press release, summarize reports, or prepare briefing documents, all using internal data sources without any of that content leaving the organization's network. A HR department could use a locally hosted model to help screen CVs, generate tailored interview questions, or summarize employee feedback while keeping personal data within their own systems and avoiding it being reused to train someone else's AI. Of course, any such use still needs careful oversight for fairness, bias, and compliance with employment law. A public sector body could deploy Gemma 4 to help staff respond to Freedom of Information requests, summarize long policy documents, or power an internal help desk chatbot that answers questions about procedures, forms, and entitlements. These are exactly the kinds of workflows people already build with tools like ChatGPT and Copilot, but the difference is where the AI runs and who controls the data. Now, of course, running your own AI model is not the same as signing up for ChatGPT or creating a custom GPT assistant. You will need someone with technical capability in order to choose the right hardware, set up the model server, and integrate it with your systems, and obviously ongoing monitoring performance and security. Research from the Linux Foundation finds that almost 2/3 of companies using AI already run at least one open model somewhere in their stack, and that about 89% use some form of open source AI technology. So open models are rapidly becoming the default building blocks for enterprise AI. And for the last 2 years, if we reflect, much of the AI conversation has been dominated by a handful of companies selling subscriptions, access to their proprietary models. With Gemma 4, Google has put a credible open alternative on the table. Free to download, licensed for wide commercial use under Apache 2.0, and designed to run everywhere from phones to data centers. So if you work in a regulated industry, if you handle sensitive information, or if you're worried about vendor lock-in, then you should consider Gemma 4. That's it for today's show. If you're ready to turn these insights into skills, here's how I can help. Get your copy of my book, AI Playbook, on Amazon. It's the perfect companion to the show. For weekly AI strategy, subscribe to my newsletter, Human in the Loop, on LinkedIn. Or if you want to take the next big step, you can take our CPD accredited professional diploma in AI. Maybe you need something more tailored for your organization. You can book a call in my calendar at digitaltraining.ie. Or if you work in government or public sector, go over to publicsectormarketingpros.com. If you found this episode useful, please share it with a pro that you know. And I'd love to read your comments on Spotify. And if you can, take a second to like, rate, or subscribe wherever you listen. It really helps the show. This is AI 6. I'll talk to you on the next episode.